One question that I get from students with a fair amount of regularity is, what is the first religion? And this is a really fascinating question from a couple of directions. We can imagine the first humans looking up at the night sky, looking at the stars, and thinking, where do we come from? Why are we here? What is all this? What happens to us after we die? And it's deeply fascinating because the idea of religion is so universal. And so the question is, what were those first religious ideas? And I think it's a little something like this. The animal that we hunt is giving its life to us willingly. We are engaged in a relationship with that animal where it gives itself to us. That relationship carries with it a responsibility, however, through ritual treatment of its bones, that we have to take those bones and plant them in the earth, essentially affecting the resurrection of that animal. We're not just taking from it, we're engaged in this reciprocal relationship. If we think about it, we can start to hear the beginnings of more elaborate religious narratives. We can start to think about the idea of ritual burial of our loved ones. We plant our loved ones in the earth like a seed. And that's going to affect their resurrection into this life, into eternal life, however we're going to conceptualize it. And of course, we can start to hear the beginnings of those narratives of our creator gods and our saviors who start appearing in religious narratives well before the Christian Bible, giving their lives to the well-being of humanity, to the well-being of their creation, and becoming resurrected through that process. As I said, in addition to the Christian narrative, which of course is well known to most Western people, we have Mithras, we have Attis, we have Prometheus, and of course we have Odin, who has to hang himself from Yggdrasil, from the tree of the world, in order to be worthy to be the ruler of the world. So essentially, the creator has to give his life in order to be worthy of ruling his creation. But the essence of this story comes from looking at our dinner plate and saying, this dinner has given itself to us. Now we owe it some responsibility to bring it back, to continue this circle of life through its resurrection. Later on, but still in the Paleolithic period, we start to see the first artistic representations in the form of cave paintings. And it seems like the first religious iconography is the bull. This seems to be an extension of this idea of the god of the hunt and the god of the herd. Thousands of years later, something really interesting starts happening in Mesopotamia and in Central Asia, that we start seeing an appearance of these golden bulls. Gold seemingly symbolizing the sun, and these blue stones, lapis lazuli, seemingly representing the sky. There's a theory that this bull god eventually evolves into the god of the storm, which is the supreme deity in many mythological pantheons. But if you're a student of the Bible, this should be setting off alarm bells in your brain, because I don't know about you, but I've always been very disturbed by the story of the golden calf. After having witnessed the miracles of the 10 plagues on the Egyptians, after witnessing the miracle of the splitting of the Red Sea, the Jewish people are freed from slavery in Egypt. They gather at Mount Sinai, where they witness more miracles. And after feeling like they've been abandoned by Moses and by God, they immediately begin to make this golden calf sculpture. And it's always bothered me. Why a calf? Why a cow? Why gold? But when we see this archaeological icons, we can start to understand that maybe there's a connection to some older tradition. And it could be that as the Jewish people feel abandoned by Moses, they revert not to something that's in their immediate knowledge, like the gods of Egypt, for example, but going back even to the oldest religious icons of humanity, which, as I said, we see even in the oldest of cave paintings. And so when we look back at these oldest religious ideas, the idea of the reciprocal relationship that we have with the animal that we're eating, we can see that this is possibly at the roots of the religious ideas of our religions today. That we have these ideas of life after death. We have these ideas of burial of the dead and their eventual resurrection. We have, in many religions, the idea of the divine sacrifice of the Creator and his resurrection. And so I want to leave you with this open question, that if so many different religions and religious ideas from all over the world stem from this original religious idea, perhaps there's more connecting us than dividing us.